Introducing Nose to Tail, a podcast where we explore the world of aviation lifecycle solutions, insights, and more. Presented by Jet Midwest.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Nose to Tail podcast. I'm Patrick Kraus with Jet Midwest. I'm here with Elizabeth Sukie. Elizabeth, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. I know we've done some work together over the years, and I'm excited to have you here on the podcast and talk a little bit about aviation and some of your experiences. Certainly, I like to talk with everybody kind of about their background, how they got started, and maybe transition into what you're doing now.
I had the love of aviation from when I was a kid. My dad used to take us to the airport and ask us, well, how does that thing fly? He wanted to know how it all came about. So I told him I would grow up and try to figure it out for him. And good thing he was still around when I went to maintenance school. I went to George C. Baker Aviation and got my A&P certificate there and went back home and told him how it all came about.
Fantastic. So what prompted you to go? Was it just sort of that awe of aviation that made you go into become a mechanic?
Yes. I originally wanted to be a pilot, and that was a far-fetched for my family at the time. So I decided to pursue something different, which is learning about how the airplanes fly, what makes them fly, and how to fix them. And then the goal was to pursue my pilot license after, but I didn't get that far. I fell in love with the maintenance and stayed there.
I've contemplated being a pilot so many times. I just don't know that I'm responsible enough to trust myself with a machine that can fly and has to come back down. So what was your first job entry into aviation?
I worked for a company called Panajet in Miami. They were doing radial engines. And that was terrible at the time because you talk about knees being bruised, walking around those cylinders or trying to get to those cylinders really made a mess of my knees. But that was my first aviation job after graduating from Baker.
So was that as a breakdown and build-up mechanic then?
Yes, it was.
That's pretty neat. Now, did that facility have its own testing apparatus? So you guys were then able to rehang them on wing and test, or were you guys simply a third party comes in, drops it off, you guys do your job and kick it out the door?
I was just tearing it down at that time. And being fresh out of A&P school, I wasn't really into the other portions of the business. I probably didn't last there very long either, to be honest, because I went over to working at Florida West. You remember them? It was a cargo airline. So got into being a cleaner at the time and started working as a mechanic thereafter.
Nice. So how long were you at Florida West?
Probably about 3 months.
You've transitioned in your career, certainly taking on some different roles. Maybe talk about that transition and what led you to, let's call it a more technical role, if that's a fair way to describe what you do.
Yeah, so basically, spent a lot of time with being in the maintenance environment. And one of the things that I picked up as I went along is always a lack of details with paperwork, right? And the asset is valuable based on what you can prove in black and white. It started from the beginning of time and it's still today. If you can't prove that a task was done properly or something was accomplished correctly, that aircraft or that component is no longer valuable. So working through the years and working with different mechanics and seeing how they sign off the paperwork or what's missing after a check, it just pushed me to realize that this is what we need to do, is to get into the environment of compliance, of proving to someone, why is your 767 valuable? Why is your 777 valuable? It's not just by someone getting into it and flying it and transporting our passengers from point A to point B. It's everyone has that knowledge that that aircraft I'm flying on, it has been checked and it's verified that it's airworthy. So they in turn feel very safe being on that aircraft.
Certainly we hear a lot from the airlines themselves. It's more than a buzzword when they talk about safety. And I know sometimes some of the major airlines also have quite a challenging technical review process. It seems like the bigger they are, the more sensitive they are about documenting things and needing maybe additional over and above technical items compared to maybe some of the smaller operators who maybe have a very clear picture about what they need and work through that. So as you work throughout your career, it sounds like you moved into a full aircraft compliance mode where you were actually doing the technical on the entire aircraft. Are you also then helping develop improvements to the maintenance programs, or does that just matriculate down into supply chain? Maybe help me understand a little bit about how a full aircraft technical review, maybe where that's really going to best support an operator.
That's a very tricky question in the sense of what we do, and I'm speaking for our business. It's more contoured to what the customer requires. So basically, Sukie's Aviation is known for its technical services and providing that service to airlines and lessors, banks, whosoever comes knocking on our door saying that they need a full review of an aircraft, or maybe it just might be an engine or gear, or someone decides they want to purchase an asset. They want us to take a look at it. As far as the maintenance program reliability is concerned, what we do is we provide that reliability analysis based on our staff being integrated within the airline. So at no point do we have a specific program that we're offering to a customer other than taking what they have in place currently, reviewing it and enhancing it with the technical knowledge that we have.
Let's say I was looking to buy an A330 with some Trent 700s. I could hire Sukie Aviation to come in and do a preview of those records prior to me putting a bid in to ensure that everything is, I'd say, up to standard, but maybe just really advising the standard that was kept by the previous operator.
Yes.
That's great. So are there particular fleet types? I'm always curious, right? Are there particular fleet types or certain age gaps in the airplanes that are particularly challenging, or maybe that you guys have created maybe a really good expertise in because you've done so many or you've overcome obstacles? Is it the 1980s 747? Is it the 1990s 757 or the 777 of the 2000s or something else?
I would say we're pretty versed within any age group, any type. We have a couple customers that they have all that you've mentioned on their fleet. So we've worked on them. We've seen the records. We understand what needs to be done with an airplane that was manufactured in 2005 versus an airplane that was manufactured in 1985. It just takes a little bit more in-depth research, but we always get to the same point, which is we deliver the product that the customer is looking for. Can they make a clear decision on what they want and what they're obtaining when they purchase the aircraft?
Is there a particular product, either airframe or engine, that's particularly challenging? Come on, I'm trying to pick your brain a little bit here. Hey, everybody's got one thorn in their saddle, right? If you could pick one out that really challenged, and it might be great for you, right? Jet Midwest tends to gravitate towards a lot of Rolls-Royce product lines because they're challenging to deal with, especially on the technical side. I'm just curious if you've run into that to yourselves with certain product lines, maybe Embraers, or I have very little exposure with Embraers, but just I can imagine there's probably something out there that challenges you more frequently than maybe you want.
I can't say so.
I can't say so. You won't. You
No,
won't make
because it's
Boeing
the
mad.
same. No. The thing is, we always use the same principles that apply, which is you have a product and we know what the end result needs to be. It needs to be an airworthy product, which meets the demands of traveling with passengers safely, right? So I never look at it as a challenge per se with reviewing the records, whether it's Airbus or Boeing, because I'm always going to apply the same principle. The I's need to be dotted, the T's need to be crossed. And at the end of the day, I myself put myself in the situation where if I was on the customer end, what do I want? I want to know every little detail about what research I'm doing, what aircraft I'm looking into. Do they have their ADs? Do they have everything that's met based on the maintenance program? As far as Airbus, I got into Airbus, but I'm fairly new to it. But I do like the fact that they seem to be a little bit more easy to read, where Boeing has a lot more digging and researching. But at the end of the day, they're airplanes and they're airplane records.
So, Elizabeth, we've worked for a couple of years in this business. No age disclosures available here, but I always have appreciated the travel, right? It's a global business. I've been lucky enough to travel to some great places. I'm curious if you've had the opportunity to go somewhere that was just the most amazing place that you've absolutely loved. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that and kind of what surrounded you getting there and why it was so important.
I actually went to Alaska to meet with a customer there. And I say it day in, day out, everyone should take a trip there. And it's one of those places that what you see in a picture, there's nothing compared to just actually being there and seeing it with your eyes. I love it. I love the experience that I had there, even though it was short. I didn't get to go sightseeing per se, but enjoyed the time that I had just being there. It was so different, Patrick. I want to do it again, but I don't know if it's one of those places where your first time being there, that's what gets you the most
Sure.
versus, going there every year. So
I'm curious, what time of the year was it when you were there?
May, actually.
All right. I can see where May might be a decent time of the year to be there.
Great weather. Okay.
I've never been to Alaska, and I'll make sure
Never?
that no, I've never been, and I need to go up there and do some fishing. Or I like being outside, but I'm always stuck here in the studio. They lock me in here and make me do episodes.
You take the episode to Alaska. That's what you need to do.
I'll meet you there.
Oh my gosh. I would love to, but I'm going to be busy for a while.
It will always be busy. Remember that, Elizabeth. We will always be busy. That's
Always.
what we do. That's why we're great at what we do, is because we're always busy. And thank goodness, right? I'd rather be busy than being unemployed. So I love being busy, and we have to carve out time to take care of some of those things and nurture our souls a little bit. When I travel, I really make intention. When I go new places, I really make an intentional, I'm going to get out and do something I haven't ever done before. And I was in Antalya for the first time, maybe 2018, in Turkey. My colleague that was with me left in the morning. So the next day, we had dinner with him. It was a 3-day trip. And the next day, he left in the morning, and I had an evening flight. And I was like, I'm going to stick around and do something here in Antalya. What I didn't know before I visited is that the city is almost the same geographic region in the Mediterranean. It's like the other side of the Mediterranean of Athens. And if you think about the historical Roman Empire and where they occupied these areas, so the architecture is very similar. So they have these cities, just massive ruined cities that I don't know, our education system didn't just tell us that they were there. Like, it looks like you would think Athens looks. And they're all like city parks. And so they have a big fence around, but they're huge. I mean, cities that held 100,000 people. And you pay like $7 and you can just walk around. They have paths through there, but you just walk around. And I'm like, this is awesome. And I spent 6 hours with me and a taxi driver driving all over to all these different places. And I'd get out and spend an hour and a half walking around. And the 3 big cities all had their own coliseums. And you just walk around, and you're walking up the stairs of the Coliseum and taking pictures. And it was the most amazing day, and really enlightened myself to go, I need to keep doing these things. Why go to a city like that has something, 2,000-year-old city 10 minutes away, and go and experience those things? And the next time I go, all of the antiquity that was related to those cities that was salvaged is all in the museums. So all of the, certainly the architecture pieces, they weren't moving, but all of the artwork and the statues and these things are all inside the museum. So the next time I go, I'm going to take the opportunity to go take a half a day and go to the museum and actually see all of those things that were in those places 2,000 years ago. But I would encourage you to take those journeys and take those opportunities. That's why I like to ask people about stories, because usually there's something that sticks out to them.
We'll continue this discussion on the next episode of Nose to Tail, a podcast presented by Jet Midwest. Don't forget to please like and subscribe to our channel.